How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today we're looking at the World of Tanks Marks of Excellence feature in the game and how you can actually achieve Marks of Excellence for yourself, what the best way of playing is in order to be able to get them, and also have a look at the sort of tanks that favour this, and also the best equipment setup for getting your Marks of Excellence in your tanks. So as you can see, I've managed to pick up a few tier 10 3 marks. Just to show you that I have actually 3 marks from tanks myself. Looking at the E5, the 57 Heavy, we've got the Centurion Action X and the FV 4005. We've got quite a few different 3 mark tier 10s, so I just want to show you that I am actually able to 3 mark tanks. So what personally is the best way to get 3 marks? If I'm going to give someone some ideas or pointers, it's definitely looking at basically maximizing the amount of combined damage you do per game. So the way that the formula works out Marks of Excellence is it's like a rolling average over 100 games, where the most recent games are weighted higher. So say your most recent game, so the one you've just played, is actually weighted say at 100%, and then your 90 or your second game is weighted at 99% of the average, and then the previous one is weighted at 98, 97, as you go on and on and on, until like your 100th game is not weighted barely at all in terms of the formula. Now, the formula also states that you have to have a decent amount of combined damage as well as actual damage in game in order to get up those Marks of Excellence, which is key basically. Because what I did in the past when I was going for my Marks of Excellence is focusing on damage, where realistically, say if I got 5k damage, yeah, that's a really good game in say a tier 8, but say if I got 2000 damage and 3000 tracking assist, it actually works out as the same, and it's balancing between getting actual damage and that spotting and tracking damage in order to boost up your Marks of Excellence. Now, the formula doesn't take into account the whole of your track damage and assistance combined together. What it does is it actually takes the highest of the 2 values. So if you get more spotting damage in one game, it will actually only take the spotting damage, it won't take the tracking damage, and vice versa. If you get more tracking damage, it will take the larger of the 2 and add that onto your damage total, and then it will work out the average for you to be able to get your Marks of Excellence. Now, there's a few websites that you can go on. I should have them linked in the description below and also on screen right now, and that is basically what C stats, and you can figure out what actually your Marks of Excellence percentage will be depending on how much combined damage you need to do. So for tier 10s, it's usually around 4,500 to 4,000 damage combined in order to get up your Marks of Excellence. So you have to make sure that you are getting consistently that, and over 100 games you will actually manage to pick up your 3rd mark. If you're quite far away, it could be down to the equipment that you're using in your tank and also the playstyle that you use. If you're not enabling yourself to get extra spotting and tracking damage, which is 100% the main key point that you need to be focusing on instead of just your damage numbers in order to really progress your Marks of Excellence for sure in World of Tanks. Now, you can see obviously in something like the 268 it's a little bit harder to get spotting damage, and it's a little bit harder in order to get the tracking damage because you have that massive gun. So a lot of the time it is purely based on damage numbers and also the little bit of spotting that you can actually do in these tanks in order to progress the most. I find with tank destroyers or guns that have the highest alpha damage, it really does take a little bit more effort. It takes a little bit more time because you have those games where you miss that one shot of damage, which means you've missed out on 900 combined damage or 850 combined damage, which is taking you down, and you're going to lose marks percentage in that game. It's very hard to get a spotting damage in some TDs. I mean, the 268 wasn't so bad because what I could do is I could put a camo net on it. Equally, you could put view range on it as well, just to boost it up, and that'll mean that you can actually outspot opponents and you can actually spot for your team, so long as you put yourself in the right position, and that's half of it. I think for a beginner player trying to go for a third mark might not necessarily be that easily achievable, but you can certainly get to your second mark, and 100% you can get to your first mark if you play the tank enough and you put the right equipment in your tank and you play the right style. Pretty much anyone can get a first mark of excellence so long as you play enough. Now, for the majority of players, if you are trying to go for your third mark of excellence, what you want to do is maximize the amount of DPM that your tank has, as well as increase the view range, and you need to be focusing on getting tracking damage in game if possible. So if you've got the shot to be able to just get damage, or you've got the shot to be able to get tracking damage and damage at the same time, or just track an opponent out in the open, say on Prokhorovka, someone comes over, you could get a shot of damage or you could track them. Personally, I would always go for the tracking shot, because the chances of them getting hit by multiple people after you've tracked them is really high, and that's going to give me more marks of excellence percentage boost than just if I hit them for 380 damage. Now, a key thing in light tanks is making sure you get that spotting damage on top of actual damage. So the key for light tank marking is basically staying alive until the end of the game and working out a strategy in order to maximize the damage, but also maximize that spotting damage using your view range. On the Manticore, you can see I've got 466.4 meters of vision range and 290 meters of still concealment. I've managed to put on obviously coated optics, or the equivalent advanced optics on console. That boosts up my view range way higher than what it was previously, and that will make it so much easier for me to outspot opponents that I come up against, and enable me to get that spotting damage for sure. Now, if you want to get the damage, obviously boosting up your loading time is quite important, and for the Manticore, because I kind of know the weak points of tanks, I've actually taken off the enhanced target info. I wouldn't recommend it for the majority of players. I've just used it in this light tank, and I don't actually have it in any other tank in the game. I just needed that extra loading time and also the view range in order to maximize my spotting and go for that third mark. I've not actually tried too hard. I think I must only have like a couple of games in the Manticore. I don't think I've played a massive amount. If we have a look, I think I may have even gone past it. But yes, certainly you can pick up some 3 marks of excellence really easily if you are maximising that damage. So I've played 94 games in the Manticore. I'm pretty sure I'm quite close to my second mark. I've played quite a lot, actually, more than I thought I did. But you can certainly see I've got a few 3 marks, and you can tend to get them really, really easily at the lower tiers, just because if you kit your tank out with a lot of the equipment, which we'll have a look at some low tiers now for those of you who are trying to get your third mark, and it's usually easier to get them down at these tiers than it is at the higher tiers, just because what most people don't actually have the equipment to enable themselves to outspot opponents and also get that assistance damage, which yet again, feature of this video, is one of the most important things about trying to 3 mark your tank. You can see we've got the Cromwell B here, 3 marked, and we've got the Excalibur. Now, the Excalibur is a really good example of using both your DPM but also that vision range in order to actually maximise that combined damage, and it was quite easy to get the third mark on this thing. It was a really fun third mark, but it's even in a tank that is particularly not that great, and it's kind of one of those novel tanks. I did do a video about it, and me just basically playing in it. It was a fun kind of time to have a go at using that and getting that third mark. As far as a tank setup that you'll probably want to go with, this is pretty much the optimum for these tiers. You want your advanced optics to boost the vision, and then you want loading time and also a ventilation. If you really want to focus on spotting damage and maintaining the ability to outspot opponents to be able to get even more spotting damage, because that's the way I focus on getting my marks. I don't really think about tracking damage too much, but if it is there and I have the opportunity, I will use it to be able to get some actual boost to my thingy. But if it is the weaker of the two, so if you get more spotting damage than you get tracking damage, the tracking damage becomes irrelevant anyway. So I feel like you have to focus on one or the other. and really try and use that in game, every single game, when you're really try harding for that marks. So you can see what I do is I put the advanced loader, the crew performance, and the advanced optics. Now you could replace ventilation potentially with advanced concealment for that extra bit of boost to your spotting potential in the game, but personally getting all of them is a good idea, and that's kind of what you need to be doing in your tanks. And also, if you're trying to go for your third mark, often you want to be using a premium consumable in the form of enhanced rations, so that will give you extra bonuses to all of your attributes in your tanks, gives you them slight advantages over opponents that you're going to be coming up against, and that will mean that overall you'll be able to deal more damage in a shorter amount of time, as well as increase the view range that you do have, which means you can outspot opponents that you wouldn't have automatically spotted before activating your rations, and therefore you can get some more spotting damage than you would have previously done, which obviously is going to boost you up. Not that many people will have full equipment in a tier 6. I know that that's kind of a cheap way to do it. I mean, I could 3-mark it without having equipment in it, but it is just an easier way to make sure that you get your third mark as quickly as possible, and I'm sure that that's what you guys want to do. You want to get that third mark of excellence, get that on your tank as quickly as possible and with the least amount of effort as possible, because, you know, if you can do something easier, why not do it easier? So that's how you can get it, and these are a few tips that I can give you without having to actually kind of explain how you can play in game, because that is just not something that you can talk about in a video. I don't think I can tell you how to get better as a player just using one tip. It would take multiple videos, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do here as part of my playlist on how to get better at World of Tanks, and I hope that kind of comes across in this video. You know, this is just one aspect. This is one aspect where you increase that spotting damage in a game. You can do it in every single game, even if you're not going for your third mark. It will make you a better player, and that's really key. Making sure you have the equipment on your tank 100%, showing you a couple of builds, showing you the importance of enhanced rations, and potentially dropping that fire extinguisher so long as you're making use of the rations, popping them as soon as they reuse. Yeah, it's just really key in order to get some good marks of excellence in your tanks. Obviously, some tanks are a little harder to 3-mark depending on how many games you play in them. Some of them will take more damage because they're better tanks, but for the most part you'll be able to 3-mark most tanks if you play them enough and you put in the effort and you put in the work and basically try enough. You'll be able to get there. I mean, for me personally, I think it does take a little while. I think I didn't get my first 3-mark till I was probably looking in the region of like 6,000 games. I don't really know. I haven't really checked. I mean, it could be less than that. I'm not entirely sure. But that's when I'd say I properly focused on 3 marks, because for the most part I was still grinding through the lines and I never really stayed on one tank enough to be able to 3-mark it before I moved on to the next tank. So it's kind of one of those endgame things where you only really try to 3-mark after you've kind of ground through all of the tech trees and you're happily in a place where you don't really want that many more tier 10s in the game. You know, when you've got to the point where you can pretty much buy any of the other ones left that you haven't already got, and you're just trying to 3-mark what tanks that you really enjoyed throughout the tech trees. That's kind of what I did, and you can see that I actually decided, you know, I really enjoyed the British medium line, so I 3-marked all of the tanks leading up to that. So we're looking at the Comet, stuff like that. Just 3-marking them all was a really fun thing to do, and it gave me something to have a look at. So you can see the only one I haven't 3-marked is actually the FV4202, which I'm currently on 1 mark. But yeah, the Action X is 3-marked too. So that's kind of what I wanted to give in this video. It is a fairly short one, and it's a guide where I hope it kind of helps you in the long run to actually get your marks of excellence and progress down those percentages. You don't actually know what percentage you're at the moment in World of Tanks console, that is, for your marks percentage, just because they haven't got it in the game unless you actually manage to get it in the battle and you've already got it. So if we look at the FV4202, we go to the medals, it will show you here that 82.89% is what I'm at the moment. If I have a game where, say, I got like this, I will go up in my marks percentage because I got 4,905 damage and 1,900 assistance. Combine that together, you're going to be on, 6,807 damage overall with 7 kills. It's not a bad game, and it certainly will boost up my marks percentage by probably approximately about 1%. So you've got to have quite a few good games in order to be able to go up in those mark percentage, and it does get harder as you get up through the marks percentages. Your second mark of excellence means that you're better than 85% of players. Your third mark of excellence means you're better than 95% of players. And your first means you're better than 65%. So those are the percentages you want to be aiming at. 65% for your first, 85% for your second, and 95% for your third mark. So make sure if you're going for them that you put those down, note them down as to when you need to get them and where you should be looking at getting them. And basically, you'll see that you can actually pick up 3 marks quite easily if you put in the work and you try hard enough. But yeah, I hope this video and guide really helped you guys. For those of you who are looking at marks percentage, maybe a bit hesitant, you don't really know how it works and you've seen them in game. I hope it kind of explained it a little bit, gave you an opinion of someone that's played the game for about 21,000 battles, I think it is now, on console anyway. But it is relevant to all versions of World of Tanks overall. Other than that, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to check out some more of my How to Get Better at World of Tanks videos in the playlist on screen right now. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.